Before we begin, thank you very much to Armada, Hotshot, and Sideswipe shall rule us all for joining the Patreon campaign. I certainly hope not, because I'm not following Sideswipe anywhere, and Hotshot couldn't lead a parade. But you know what? Let him try. Let him try. Thank you very much for pitching in. Thank you for another silly shoutouts that are always fun. A slight programming update. Because we hit the goal on Patreon, I do still owe you guys some Rush reviews. I wasn't counting on spending the middle of the month sick, unfortunately, so I have been kind of set back in my schedule. You'll still get it no matter what, because that is something that I've been wanting to dabble with for a long time. And you'll note by programming that's hopefully posting next week, I've been in a bit of a nostalgic mood, so it wouldn't be too far off from what I want to do right now. So, yeah, you're absolutely getting it. Just hang in there. I am recovered, and I'm getting back into the swing of things. But for now, we have more topics to discuss, and this is actually a Patreon request, although an amended one. Someone asked me to do a top 10 worst female Transformer toys. Now, we have been very critical on this channel of Hasbro and how they have designed their female Transformer toys, with an over-reliance on backpack and a refusal to make them as interesting as many of the more popular male characters. But I decided to do an entire video dedicated to just, here's all these awful female Transformer toys. I felt like, at best, could be viewed as mean-spirited, and at worst, would be viewed as sexist. And I didn't want either of those, so we're doing something a little bit different here, because Hasbro does deserve to be put on blast for poor treatment of female characters in the toy aisle. You know, they can claim that, well, female toys don't sell, but I would claim they might sell better if you actually made good ones. But the thing is, they have made good ones. So instead of doing top 10 worst, we're going to do something that I've been meaning to try out more often, which is to go back and forth. So we're going to look at the 5 worst female Transformer toys in my current memory, because I can't remember all thousands of Transformer toys in existence. But this is going to cover 5 of the ones that I feel are 5 of the worst, and as well as 5 of the ones that are counterpoint, some of the best that I can remember. So that's how we're going to split this, to show what that needs to be avoided in the future and what is actually, on the upside, and what is on the positive side of things. So so it's a top 5 best and worst, essentially. And we're going to start off with the Power of the Primes female mold. And I have to call it that because that's how Hasbro treated it. Originally released as Moonracer, the mold itself honestly is okay. It is another in a long-running list of female Transformer toys that rely on having most of the alt mode crammed into the back rather than being made up of her actual robot parts. But there is a counterpoint to this. It is, in this mold's case, because her combiner block had to be on this big solid chunk, and that ended up being her backpack. So in order to actually work in Power of the Primes, she had to have some kind of backpack, so understandable. What's egregious about the mold is how Hasbro and Takara treated it since then, trying to incorporate every random female character as this mold, rather than actually just making new molds that better represented the characters. So, along with this mold also became Novastar, Greenlight, and Lancer, and in an even more extreme case, it was retooled into Select's Tentakill, which became Scylla. So, you've got 5 female characters who were eventually made from this mold, and then the design was reused for Chromia in Siege. And again, that one became Nightbird and then later Cascade. So, while technically a brand new mold, it is exact same toy experience across 8 different figures. That's a really bad thing, to paint 8 of your characters as so similar to you or deserving so little attention that you're just going to make them all exactly alike. So this one is up there, not just because I feel like it's a lazy figure that's that's not as well designed as other characters, but also it's just, God, what a bad way of treating the characters associated with it. On the opposite side of things, let's take a look at Shatter. Now, this is her second toy in Studio Series, her Jet Mode, and this is about as perfect as the Deluxe Shatter is ever going to be. Does it have her car mode? No. But you're never going to get a triple changer like that at Deluxe size, even Voyager size. It took a third-party company, a $160 figure, and years of development to actually make that transformation work, and it takes like half an hour to transform it. No, at retail level, this was about as good as we were ever going to get, and it's good. In contrast to how her car figure turned out, it's really good. The head sculpt looks really, really nice on her. She's got a great level of screen accuracy to how she looked in the movie. Jet mode, the Harrier mode, looks really, really cool, and it works really, really well. It's just a really well depiction, well designed and nice depiction of Shatter. One of the better female Transformers introduced in the last few years, and one that I keep hoping we see again because she left such an impact in the Bumblebee movie. So that's how it's going to be. So if we move on to number 4, once again, we have to dip into the bad first, and then we're going to go and highlight something that went over well. What didn't go over well was Cybertron Thunderblast. This is one that I know a lot of people like, but let's be honest here, it's very much a thing of its time. So remember, at this point, only 3 Transformers had specifically been designed to be female characters. You had Transmetal Air Racer. Well, no, I should take that back. Because there are a few more in there. But to the point, it's like number 5. Even if I start including the Beast Machines cast, it's like number 5. Which is not a whole lot. And it's one of the few times that, and most of those were Beast characters. Now we're dealing with a mechanical character. And Hasbro, or Takara in this case, really did not want to incorporate that boat mode in the least. Her vehicle mode is 90% hanging off her back in gigantic panels, which means she does almost no transforming whatsoever, and is extremely limited in what she can do because she has to carry a boat on her back. Design-wise, I don't mind the character or the figure. I mind the functionality, and I mind just how little effort went into actually designing her toy. Maybe there are other, maybe it's difficult to produce a female character out of a boat. Maybe it means you shouldn't have attempted that in the first place. It's not like you had a lack of alt modes. She gets by on looks. She gets by on, how she is depicted in the show that I'm not a fan of, but I know a lot of people are. But it's not a great figure. It could be a lot better. Considering she's in one of the best toy lines Hasbro and Takara ever made, it could be a lot better. In contrast, let's move over to First Edition Prime, where all of those toys are generally considered to be ace, including their RC. I think with the new Legacy RC figure, a lot of people are becoming even more aware of how good her first edition figure was, as far as just accurate depiction, good use of parts, actually, using her bulk to create her robot mode. Very sleek, very well-crafted vehicle mode as well. This one's just nice. All around nice. Nicer than the RID, certainly nicer than the modern depiction. And yeah, it's a shame that this one was... It's a shame in general the first edition was almost what the Transformers Prime line was until budget shifts forced it to be, more gimmicky and smaller and simpler in design. But this was great. I was glad that we actually got one figure in a mini line known for just really, really good figures. And number 3, we're going to tread normal, familiar territory. And we had to get into RCs at some point, so now we have to talk the Earthrise RC figure. Such a new figure to immediately jump so high in this list. So this is coming off of the Generations RC, which I didn't think was too bad of a figure, acknowledging the fact that An accurate G1 RC toy without a oversized backpack is literally physically impossible. Even Masterpiece can't really manage it. So, no surprise that as budgets get smaller, new RC toys would start to suffer more, and they thought this was a good alternative. The idea that a big chunk of her backpack could come off and become a hoverboard. You know, RC's famous accessory that she has in every, TV show she's in. Hoverboard. Nope, not a fan. I'm never a fan of when a giant chunk of the alt mode comes off and they just go, it's a shield. No, it's lazy engineering that you didn't want to find a space for in the robot mode. And this is the worst example because it's literally half of her vehicle mode. You can leave it attached, but then literally her entire vehicle is strapped to her back outside of, I think, maybe the very front nose of her hood. I think that's literally it. Her grill is her actual robot mode chest, and that's it. It's a horrible toy. It's an absolutely horrible toy. Even if you don't mind RC shell formers, it's a really sloppy one. It feels really cheap in your hands. It's just a really poor representation of her, and absolutely a terrible toy. However, years before, we actually had a chance to do what I keep saying RC toys need to do. Redesign the character so that her bulk can actually go into the vehicle mode. Animated understood the assignment. It's a very sleek roadster, but it is RC as a car, and a big part of it comes from the fact that her legs take up a good portion of the bulk of the vehicle mode. Yes, she still has a backpack, but you'll notice it is extremely slimmed down and minimal compared to how she normally is. She wears it well. Not only does she wear it well, the designers actually put it to use by also being the sheaths for her swords. Really clever use of the bulk. Really, really like it. Big fan of how it turned out and how it looks. It's a great figure. It's a really good figure, and it's what should have started RC as being reimagined in a way that she actually could have been a car and still looked like herself in robot mode, but didn't have to rely on shell. That she could have actually distributed the bulk and just been a bulkier design than she used to be in G1. And it took a long time before they ever tried it again, and it was a Titan's Return retool. And I still think that's a better RC toy than a lot of the things we've gotten since. So there you go. You can move into number 2 now, and now we know it's going to start getting very ugly on one side and very pretty on another side. And guess what? We're not done with RC just yet. Let's talk the Revenge of the Fallen RC toy. Now, when I reviewed this back in the day, long time ago, it was a gift from a friend, so I felt like I was being far more kind to it than I should have been. And I was being kind because it was trying to do something different. But in hindsight, looking back, my God, this toy is a mess. The vehicle mode is fine, don't get me wrong, but the robot mode is one of those designs that really should have been thought about more. I understand that in Revenge of the Fallen, they wanted to do different. They wanted a lot more alien designs amongst the cast, Autobot and Decepticon alike, and I understand that. Add variety. And alien robots don't necessarily have to pattern themselves after bipedal humanoids. That makes sense. And I wouldn't really mind like a female Transformer toy that was serpentine in nature, but not done like this. Her joint system is non-existent. She's got maybe 2-3 joints in there total, which means she doesn't have this big snake thing. She has 2 parts that look like a shattered spinal column. She looks like she's been they started ripping her. It looks like a Mortal Kombat fatality where you start ripping her torso up, and now we've left a visible spine, but we forgot to pull her off completely. That's what she looks like here, and she's got about as much functionality that way too. I mean, again, do it differently. Do a snake-like female character or a male character. I don't care. It would actually be an interesting change, and it might actually give you some different play value. But when you do it like this, it just doesn't work, and it's hideous. I mean, it's just not a great toy. And then you take in the canceled combination part of it, and then it gets a little bit worse. On the contrast, we have Black Arachnia from Beast Machines of all things. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a Beast Machines toy, but it's a fantastic toy and probably Black Arachnia's best of all time, and I might even include the Masterpiece in that discussion. I'm trying not to include masterpieces because I don't think it's quite fair in this list in particular. It's focusing on mainline stuff. And this was really good. For starters, sculpt-wise, she's the most accurate in the Wave 1 Beast Machines. In Year 1 Beast Machines, even. If her purple had been done in a magenta color instead, like the Takara version you see here, she'd have been spot on, and I don't think a single person would have ever complained about that toy. The articulation on it is great. The robot mode is extremely well designed, obviously female, and the only bulk on it is the bulk that existed on her in the show. And yeah, and then the spider mode. Spider mode's fantastic looking. It's one of the best spiders we've ever had. Absolutely great figure. Absolutely great figure. It's no wonder the version you see here on screen is one of the most expensive Beast Machines toys you could get. The Takara version, notoriously rare. So, I don't know. If I get crazy one day, I might track it down because it's that good of a toy and that good of a look. All right. Worst of the worst, best of the best. Take your bets now because, yeah, you've only got like a couple seconds before I reveal what the worst female Transformer toy is. And you should know this if you've been watching this channel because we've talked about her before on Plastic Addict. Let's do Prime Arachnid one last time. This thing is horrifically bad. So you've got the Flying Lobster look in the vehicle mode. The vehicle mode, which is way, way too small. This toy absolutely should have been at least a Voyager class figure. And then, of course, you've got the helicopter blades that don't look like helicopter blades in vehicle mode. And they were trying to put in her spider arm gimmick in robot mode, and it just doesn't work. You know, the locking mechanism is very poor. They don't reach far enough forward. You've got the massive kibble issues, as most of her vehicle mode just hangs off of her back. You have a very dull paint job that lacks a lot of her more interesting elements from the show. You have the super scrawny arms with the weird jointage. You have extremely limited articulation, far less articulation than the standard Prime figure. And yeah, and then just very weird, dull accessories. They look like, Cybertronian tennis rackets. Just all around, just terrible, terrible toy. In a toy line that was actually surprisingly good at times. Like, she is the antithesis of the Prime RID Viacon. Like, whatever design magic went into the Viacon was absorbed from Arachnid in order to exist. That's what I would call the worst. Of course, all matter of opinion here. What about the best? The best is actually pretty recent as far as I'm concerned, and that would be the Velocitron Override. It's a bit of a cheat, because the original character was designed to be male by Takara, but the female depiction in Cybertron seems to be the more popular, and this is the co-design from Hasbro. So, yes, this is officially a female Transformer toy, and a really fantastic one. She is solid. She uses a lot of the bulk from her vehicle mode in order to make the robot mode clean. So clean looking. No real kibble hanging off of her that's unpleasant in any way, shape, or form. Vehicle looks fantastic. Robot looks fantastic. Articulation's good. Solid build. Good paint. Just about everything I could want out of a modern Override toy outside of maybe a working Cyber Key gimmick, but I don't expect spring-loaded gimmicks in Generations figures. So I will take what I can get, and what I got is a fantastic toy. And one of my favorites of the year. And I wish this was the design element. I wish this was the idea. Because you know what a lot of the really good ones have in common is the fact that they aren't just typical female design. They are female characters, but they don't make designs that go out of their way to show it. They're just really good looking toys who happen to be female. And that's all you really need, I don't need a Transformer to have an hourglass figure and high heels in order to identify it as a female. And a lot of the characters, while they do have a look like that, you're not sworn to it. And there's absolutely ways of still doing that and still coming off like a really, really good toy. We've seen it in the past, and I think Hasbro is making the right steps forward. We've seen an uptick in the number of female Transformers on the shelves. We've seen them try to incorporate more of the vehicle bulk into the robot mode to bulk out the figure's robot and to be more stable and functional as a figure. You know, and we've had really good Transformer female toys lately. You know, the Rise of the Beast Core Air Razor was on my top 10 of the year list. It's genuinely one of my favorite toys right now. You know, we've got, Override, that's done well. The Elita 1 mold in Legacy, it's got issues, but it did take steps forward to actually being better. We've got the Bumblebee RC that I thought was a really surprisingly good toy. And we're getting more and more toys of female characters who are hits. Even the new Shadow Striker, annoyed as I am that it's not the Cyberverse design, and is still a very nice toy. We're making progress, is the point. We've got a ways to go, but I do think female characters are actually getting there as far as having good toy representation. So that's the video. Hope it satisfied the request. We did still talk the worst female Transformer toys that I know of, but we temper it because there's two sides to every argument. So I thought that was the fair thing in this case. So let me know in the comments below. What is your favorite female Transformer toy? What is your least favorite? Maybe I completely missed the boat on this one. But let me know in the comments below. And as always, I will see you next time.